Hey everybody, it's Rycard here again, back with another black and white Pokemon analysis. Today, we're going to be discussing the flying squirrel Pokemon known as Emonga. So let's get started by taking a look at its typing, abilities, and stats. So first off, you will notice that this Pokemon has the same typing as Zapdos, which is an electric flying type. And this typing is actually really good because you're only weak to rock and ice. So there's really not a lot of other attacking moves that you really need to be worrying about except those two. As for the abilities, the first one it gets is Static, which is an ability that I personally love because it gives or has a 30% chance to paralyze your opponent if they hit you with a contact move. And this is great because of all the benefits that come with paralysis, such as making your opponent slower and obviously giving them that chance to be immobile for a turn. So it's a really cool ability if you want to try and force paralysis on your opponent. As for its next ability, it is its Dream World ability, and it is known as Motor Drive. And what this ability does is it allows Emonga to gain a +1 speed boost when it is hit by an electric attack. This ability also makes you immune to electric type attacks, so it'll give you another immunity along with your ground immunity, which is really cool. And it'll allow Emonga to be even faster if you want to use that ability, if you predict a electric type move to be used in battle. As for its stats, it has 55 HP coupled with 60 defense and 60 special defense, which really isn't a lot, unfortunately, so this Pokemon really is fairly frail in the defensive area and most likely will not be the best Pokemon to use if you need something to take a hit in battle. As for its attacking stats, they're both the same at a pretty good 75, meaning that you could go physical or special with this Pokemon and try and do so to the best of your ability. It learns really good moves for both of them, actually, or both physical and special attack categories, so you can easily make a set for either one. As for the speed, it is at a very good 103, meaning that you will be fairly quick in battle and be able to outspeed a lot of different Pokemon. And this speed also comes into play with a new move that Emonga learns known as Electro Ball, and I will talk more about that later in one of the sets. But as for this first set, this is going to be characteristic of what a lead Emonga might look like. So first we're going to give it a Jelly Nature to increase its speed but decrease its special attack, and then we're going to be using the ability Static to have that extra chance to paralyze your opponent if they're using a contact move. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into HP to give you 1 more hit point, 252 EVs into attack to max your attack out, and 252 EVs for speed to give you your highest speed possible. As for the item, since we are a lead and we do have fairly frail defenses, we're going to be using a Focus Sash so that we can at least survive 1 attack from your opponent. As for the moveset, the first one we're going to be using is Spark, because it is a decent powered electric type move that this Pokemon will get stabbed from, and it also has a 30% chance to paralyze. And we're using this over the new move known as Wild Bolt because since you do have a Focus Sash, using a move that would have a recoil is really not the smartest idea. As for the next move, it is known as Quick Attack, and it is just a 40 base power normal type move that gets priority. And the reason for that is because Emonga's attack really isn't amazing, so chances are after a Spark your opponent will still be left alive, and that's hopefully to a point where Quick Attack will possibly be able to finish it off. The next move we're going with is U-Turn, and we're going with this over the new electric type U-Turn because U-Turn's a bug move, so even if your opponent is a ground type you can still switch out, which you can't with the new Volt Change move, which is unfortunate. But this is a great move to have to switch to an appropriate counter if Emonga is threatened by your opponent's lead, and also faster because obviously you don't want to take a hit before you U-turn out. Lastly, we're going to either go with 2 support moves. The first is going to be Light Screen, so that you can take special attacks better, or your entire team will benefit from that at least, and then the move Encore, which really isn't seen on leads often, or at least from what I've seen, but it's great because this Pokemon has really high speed, So if your opponent wants to set up stealth rocks or something like that first, you can easily just encore that and then U-turn out when they have to switch on the next turn, giving you switch advantage. So it's a pretty cool little set that Emonga can use if it wants to try and be a lead position Pokemon. As for this next set, we're going to be trying to be a little bit more defensive, but we're still going to give Emonga a Jelly Nature to increase its speed and be using the ability Static. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into HP to max out your HP, 4 for special defense to give you 1 more point in that area, and then 252 EVs for speed to max out your speed. And as for the item, this time we're going to be using leftovers because we are a little bit more defensive, so having that extra chance to recover HP at the end of every turn is always a great asset. As for the first two moves in the set, the first one is Wild Bolt and the next one is Tickle, and they're kind of made to be used in combination with each other. Because since we're not running any attack EVs on this thing, we want a way to lower your opponent's defense, and Tickle is a great move to do that. Because Tickle also lowers your opponent's physical attack as well. So you're essentially crippling them if they are a physical attacker or defensive wall, so to speak. So you're reducing both of those by one stage, which will allow Emonga to survive a physical hit from them, potentially, and also allow it to deal more damage with Wild Bolt, which I mentioned in the previous set, but I didn't really explain. Basically, it's a 90 base power physical electric type move that deals 1/4 damage recoil to you every time you use it, which really is actually a good amount of recoil as compared to a move like Double Edge, which deals significantly more to you. So it's actually a very useful electric type move and can be very beneficial on a Pokemon like this that has no attack EVs but is still trying to deal physical damage. As for the next move in the set, it's going to be Toxic to obviously get that extra chance to get the chance to poison your opponent and potentially stall them out with your recovery move, Roost. And I know that Static is also on this Pokemon, which could mess up the or desire to use Toxic since they can be paralyzed, but either way, they're both useful conditions for your opponent to receive, so whether or not it wants to be paralyzed or Toxic, it really doesn't matter because they're both beneficial. So you can essentially make this Pokemon pretty capable of being a double status Pokemon to an extent, and because of Tickle lowering your opponent's attack, you'll be able to take more physical attacks, which will give a greater chance of Static activating. And then you can recover that HP right up with Roost. As for this last set, it is going to be the more unique of the three and makes use of the move Electro Ball, which I mentioned earlier in the video. But this time we're going to give Emonga a Timid Nature to increase its speed but decrease its physical attack, since we're going to be using special attacks this time. And then we're going to be using the ability Motor Drive, so that if you predict an electric attack that your opponent's going to use, you can switch this Pokemon in, absorb it, and then get a speed boost, because we want to be as fast as possible with the set. As to the EVs, we're going to put 4 into HP to give you 1 more hit point, 252 EVs into Special Attack to give you your max special attack possible with the Timid Nature, and then 252 EVs for Speed to give you your max speed. And as for the item, again, we're going to be using leftovers. Even though we are trying to be a more attacking set, using Life Orb on a Pokemon like this, who is fairly frail, would never really be that great of an option. But as for the moves, the first one we're going to make use of is Thunder Wave, because that is guaranteed paralysis on anything that isn't a ground type, and since we don't have the static ability, Thunder Wave is really the only way we can attempt to paralyze your opponent. And now this does two things, because obviously it makes them slower. And the reasoning for that is because we're going to combine their low speed with this new move known as Electro Ball. And Electro Ball is essentially the electric type version of Gyro Ball that works in the exact opposite way. Basically, and I'm going to read this directly off Smogon, Electro Ball has 150 base power if the target speed is lower or equal to 1/4 of the user's speed. So as you can see, the faster Emonga is, the stronger Electro Ball will be. And Electro Ball has 100% accuracy, so it'll be more powerful than Thunder and more accurate than Thunder. And what's great about it is because of the way it works, you'll always have at least 60 base power with it, so it's not a completely worthless electric type move if your opponent still is fast. But because of Thunder Wave being in effect, chances are they'll be slow enough to where you can get this a move to be dealing at least, or have at least like 120, 80, 150 base power. Hopefully, that's like the goal with it. As for the next move, we're going to be using Air Slash because that is a great move to have on a special Pokemon that is also a flying type. So you get stabbed from it, and it'll also allow you to paraflinch or get that kind of thing going on because of the Thunder Wave. So it'll basically decrease your opponent's chance to be able to attack by a lot. And then the last move we're going to be using is Roost to try and keep our HP up even more and hopefully stall out like a paralysis turn, meaning you're going to want to Roost hopefully when your opponent gets parahaxed, so to speak. But this is probably one of the coolest sets that this Pokemon can use, and since it is quite a speedy electric type, it'll definitely be able to make great use of Electro Ball. But that's it for Emolga. This thing is absolutely adorable, and I love it. But I want to know what you guys think about these sets, obviously. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I will obviously keep making these videos, trying to do one a day at least. But I will be posting soon, hopefully tomorrow, so I will see you guys later. So take care and goodbye.